Headhunters is a movie about Roger Brown. He's only 5 feet 6 inches tall, and feels self-conscious about it. He overcompensates for his short height through his hot wife, Diana, and his fancy house worth $30 million. To Diana, Roger is a rich man who inherited a fortune from his parents. But the truth is far from that. As a front, Roger works in a top position in a recruitment firm that helps people get top jobs at big companies. But in reality, Roger is a thief, who steals valuable paintings. He is always on the lookout for a person who's in possession of an expensive painting, and then tips it to his partner, Ove, who works at a surveillance company. With Ove deactivating the security, Roger can easily sneak into his victim's house and swap the painting with a counterfeit, without getting caught. Roger often feels threatened that his hot wife can leave him for a better-looking man, so he tries to keep her happy by giving her expensive gifts, and the only way he can afford them is by selling valuable stolen paintings on the black market. Roger also has an affair with a woman named Lotta. But when Lotta asks him to meet her friends, he quickly ends things by clarifying that there's nothing serious between them. Roger's accountant informs him that he's at risk of going bankrupt due to his excessive spending habits on his wife. But he still goes ahead and sponsors his wife's latest art gallery. At the opening party, Diana introduces him to Klaus Greve, a handsome and tall Dutch businessman, whom Roger is immediately intimidated by. Klaus tells Roger that he has recently retired from a tech company called Hout, which specializes in GPS tracking technology. Upon finding out that Klaus might be rich, Roger calls him for a meeting to discuss if he'll be interested in taking a position at Hout's rival company, Pathfinder, which is Roger's client. After returning home, Diana shows Roger a painting by a famous artist that was stolen in 1941, and was never found. She then reveals that the painting is in Klaus's apartment. As Diana recalls the story, Klaus's grandmother was in a love affair with a German officer who had stolen the painting during the war and gifted it to her. Years later, Klaus is in possession of it and has asked Diana to evaluate its true value. Intrigued by it, Roger asks Diana how much the painting can be worth, and she says it could be tens, or even hundreds of millions worth. Roger feels that stealing this painting can solve his recent financial struggles, and may even help him retire. The next morning Diana asks Roger if he's ready to start a real family. Diana has always dreamt of being a mother, but Roger has declined Diana's request for 7 years. This culminates in an argument between the couple, after which Diana accepts that Roger will never give her a child. Later, Roger meets Ove to discuss their next victim, who's going to be Klaus. Roger plans to find out when Klaus's apartment is empty so that they can steal on that day. Before that, he wants Ove to go to Sweden and fetch a good quality counterfeit of the painting. Ove says that he can't go anywhere as his girlfriend Natasha is visiting him, and he has some special plans. Ove has installed secret cameras in his bedroom and has laid them out in such a manner that whatever happens on the bed will be hidden, but the other side will be streamed live for the pleasure of his colleagues. Roger then tells him that Klaus's painting will bring him millions of dollars, after which he can retire and spend all his time with Natasha, so Ove agrees. Roger meets Klaus under the pretext of interviewing him for a job at Pathfinder, a GPS technology firm, and he gets more information on Klaus. He sees scars on Klaus's back, and Klaus reveals that he was in the army. More specifically, he was part of a team called Track, which specialized in tracking people using microscopic transmitters. His experience got him a top position in Hout, where he was made in charge of developing transmitters so small that they are invisible to the human eye. That night Roger does some research and finds that Klaus has tracked down some serious criminals. It might be dangerous to steal from a person of that background, but he still goes ahead with his plan. After scanning Klaus's apartment, Roger finds the painting and is left in awe of it, and he quickly swaps it with a counterfeit. On his way out, he gets distracted by some children playing outside and starts to contemplate starting a real family with Diana. He feels sorry for her and calls her, but then he hears a phone ringing. Roger follows the sound, which leads him to Klaus's bedroom, where he finds Diana's phone. Roger is shocked to find that his wife is cheating on him with Klaus. He returns home to find Diana watching TV, and asks her about her phone. Diana replies that she must have left it at her gallery. To keep his theft a secret, Roger cannot even confront Diana. The next day, Klaus is at the job interview that Roger got him, speaking about his groundbreaking GPS technology. He has developed a jelly that contains hundreds of invisible nanotransmitters and can stick to anything, and the target will never know that they are being tracked. But Roger is unable to focus and keeps thinking about Klaus with his wife. He starts feeling jealous and inferior, so he tells Klaus that despite the job interview going well, there's no guarantee that Roger will recommend him for the job. While driving away, Roger is stopped by Lotta, who acts desperate, getting all over Roger, but he quickly fends her off and asks her to never contact him. At home, Roger is unable to contain his frustration anymore and tells Diana that he will make sure that her friend, Klaus, never gets a job in the city. Diana realizes that Roger has found out about her and Klaus, and she calls Klaus to discuss the crisis. Meanwhile, as always, Ove goes to Roger's garage to take the painting from his car. The next morning, Roger finds Ove lying motionless in his car. After checking his pulse, Roger concludes that Ove is dead, and starts to get nervous. He pulls Ove's body out, and puts it in the trunk of his car. It turns out that the car seat was embedded with a poisoned syringe, possibly meant for Roger. Just then, Diana walks in uncharacteristically and tells Roger that she loves him. After that, Roger drives his car to a lake to get rid of Ove's dead body. He drags Ove's body to a lake, and dumps him into the water. Just as he starts mourning Ove's death, Ove resurfaces half unconscious, scaring Roger. He immediately jumps in, and saves Ove from drowning. Roger drives with an extremely drowsy Ove, and carries him to Ove's house. Ove is in pain and wants Roger to take him to a hospital, but Roger can't let the police get involved. He says milk will help neutralize the poison, and finds Ove's pistol in the fridge, and decides to keep it. But Ove threatens Roger to call the hospital, and in the ensuing shootout, Ove misses all of his shots while Roger mistakenly kills Ove. How will Roger ever get out of this mess? He takes the pistol, and leaves the house when he gets confronted by Klaus, who had been following Roger using his tracking skills, to kill him. As Roger runs and gets in his car, Klaus breaks the window to grab him, but Roger manages to get away from the scene. Why does Klaus want to kill him? Does his wife want him dead? Roger suspects that Klaus might be tracking him via GPS, so he throws away his phone, takes the painting, and switches his car for Ove's. He discards all of his belongings because Klaus's invisible jelly with his nanotransmitters could be stuck onto anything, even his wedding ring. He then puts on Ove's spare uniform and goes to a farm where Ove used to stay, and pays the farmer for a cabin. Once inside the cabin, he keeps Ove's pistol away, and runs to the outdoor latrine, where he hides the painting. However, Klaus is still able to track Roger and reaches his cabin, and takes away Ove's pistol. Roger sees that Klaus has brought a tracking dog along, who spots Ove in the latrine. Roger takes no chance and gets inside the latrine pit, to keep himself hidden. Although Klaus checks the latrine, Roger is perfectly hidden with a pipe to breathe through. A few hours later, thinking it's safe, Roger gets outside and runs to the parking shed, but finds that the car is not starting. He then goes to the farmer's cabin to ask for his help, but finds that Klaus has killed the farmer. He takes the farmer's tractor's keys and runs back to the shed, but gets confronted by Klaus's tracking dog, which means Klaus is still around. After some struggle against the dog, Roger manages to kill it. He crashes out of the shed in the farmer's tractor, and continues to drive erratically, believing that Klaus is still pursuing him relentlessly. Eventually, he falls off the tractor, and discovers that the person chasing him is actually a stranger who is only trying to help. The next morning, Roger wakes up in a hospital and finds Klaus's car parked outside. While trying to run away from the hospital, the police catch him as a prime suspect in the farmer's murder. They drive him to the station believing he is Ove, as they do not know Roger's real identity yet. Just then, the cops spot a truck that has been reported as stolen. They pull over, to block the truck's path. But seeing the aggression of the truck, Roger understands that Klaus is driving it. And then it hits him. Diana applied Klaus's GPS jelly to Roger's hair, and that's how Klaus has been able to track him everywhere. He urges the cops to drive away, but they pay no attention to his warnings, and the truck rams their car off a cliff, making it crash badly. All the cops die, but luckily Roger survives. When Klaus arrives to check the car, Roger pretends to be dead, until Klaus confirms it, and leaves the scene, after which Roger finally breathes. He gets rid of his handcuffs, and shaves his hair off to get the jelly off him. He hides his hair in a peanut bag and places it in the car, so that Klaus can track him to the immobile car. He swaps clothes with the disfigured body of a cop, picks up his gun, and leaves, thinking about how Diana finally left him for a handsome man, and how desperately they want him out of the way. With no one to turn to for help, Roger goes to Lotta. But later on, he finds that Lotta too is working for Klaus, and manages to stop her from texting Klaus about his whereabouts. Upon threatening, she reveals that Klaus wants to kill Roger because he ruined his prospects of getting the job at Pathfinder. Klaus wants to kill Roger for a job? Klaus still works for Hood and was sent by them to steal Pathfinder's latest GPS technology. The technology is worth billions of dollars, so Klaus will do anything to get inside Pathfinder. He first hired Lotta, but Roger ended the affair. So Klaus approached Diana with the fake story of a fake painting, so that she could introduce him to Roger. And now that Roger is coming in the way of him getting the job, he wants to kill him, and used the executive who would replace Roger, to get the job at Pathfinder. All Lotta did was rub the jelly on Roger's hair. Roger realizes that he misunderstood Diana. After revealing the entire truth, Lotta attacks Roger and tries to kill him. Following the struggle between the two, Roger shoots Lotta to death, to save his own life. Meanwhile, the investigation of the farmer's death is now being led by Detective Brady Spare, who is quite sought out by the ladies, given his popularity. Roger goes to Diana and tells her the truth about his past, and everything that has happened ever since they met Klaus. Diana also admits that she had a one-night stand with Klaus following their argument about having a child. Diana tells Roger that she loves him and only him. Roger opens up that he has always been scared that Diana would leave him. That's why he stole all the valuable paintings to keep her happy. Even when he refused to have a child, it was because he was afraid Diana would love the child more than him. Diana is hurt that Roger felt she was a vain woman and only wanted materialistic things. She becomes emotional and comforts Roger. The next morning, however, Diana meets Klaus at his apartment to resume her affair, while Roger sneaks into the morgue to get rid of the evidence that would link him to the death of the police officers, and steals his hair that he had planted. He goes to Ove's house and cleans up any biological traces he may have left, and sits beside Ove's dead body. And just then, he gets confronted by Klaus, who tracked him with the hair that Roger was carrying. Klaus then boasts that Diana had come to see him again when Roger was busy fixing his sad life. However, what Klaus does not know is that the pistol in his hand, the one he picked up from the farm's cabin, belonged to Ove, and it is the same pistol with which Roger had accidentally killed Ove. He also does now know that Roger has switched on the CCTV cameras, and Ove's colleagues are watching Klaus live. When Klaus finally shoots the gun, it only shoots blanks while Roger shoots Klaus with Ove's other gun. As Klaus is lying on the ground waiting for his death, Roger reveals that Diana went to see Klaus not because she wanted to, but to put blanks in the pistol. He instigates him into a shootout again, as Ove's colleagues watch Klaus's death live. The cameras in Ove's house make it look like there was a shootout between Klaus and Ove. Roger places the gun in Ove's hands, slips out of the window, and reunites with Diana. As for Lotta's death, Roger had killed her with the pistol he took from a dead cop, which he smeared with Ove's fingerprints and placed by his bed. The only weak point in this plan was that Ove was dead for days, as his forensics report showed, but since Brady Spare had a reputation for being the #1 investigator, especially among the ladies, he didn't let the report get out. With nothing to worry about, Roger returns to his normal life, has finally impregnated his wife, and doesn't care about his height anymore.